Sleep. We talk about it like it's simple, but for many of us, it's not. Between work and noise and the weight we carry, rest feels like a luxury we can't afford. But maybe it's time we remember that even the strongest souls, you need stillness. We need stillness. Because rest isn't weakness, it's how we rise again. If you feel that you have to keep going in spite of your fatigue, and you feel this in your mind, body, and soul, but still feel that it's unfair for your loved ones, even if you give yourself an ounce of self love, then this is for you. Welcome to the first episode about self care tips with me, Marie Crisostomo. I've become a firm believer in caring for yourself first because it helps ease stress and anxiety, boosts your mood, sparks creativity, and gives you space to reflect and grow. So when you recharge, do things you enjoy, and take care of your own needs, you'll find it easier to handle emotions, connect with others, and keep a healthier balance between work and life. In a few cultures like ours in the Philippines, work can be backbreaking, time consuming, exhausting. But due to the need for better finances, we tend to overexert ourselves. We tend to glorify the grind. Believe me, I've done it for over 20 years, but then, when we start getting sick often with hypertension, asthma, hyperacidity, have skin breakouts, anxiety, and depression, we seriously need to start listening to our bodies. From 2008, after several trips to the hospital, I finally realized I needed to take a break. I could feel my body giving in to the stress of work. Why? Because I overexerted myself. I would spend almost all my time at work. I hardly went home. And I know that there are pros to it, like, I got the recognition, the awards that went with it, but it was at whose expense? Mine and others as well. When I'd get sick, the people in my team had no one to guide them. So, in my zeal to do more, I actually ended up doing less for them. I started underperforming and losing focus. My team didn't have the guidance they needed because I needed to focus on recovering, and not to mention the horrid mood swings I had. But this is not just my story, it's yours. 6 years ago, I made a big and difficult decision to stop and take care of myself more. Easier said than done. Deep down, I knew that if I didn't stop, I would either continue visiting the hospital for different ailments or I'd be dead. And as harsh as that sounds, that was the truth. So, what did I do? I moved from the city to a more rural area where living isn't as fast paced and dynamic. I also resigned and settled to enjoy writing, not as a hobby, but as something I could continue earning from full time. But this was before COVID. After COVID, that was a different story. But I still write as a hobby or for part time projects. I still do. But, in short, that decision that I made was the best ever. Nothing beats the peace and the calmness of a laid back lifestyle. Won't be for all, but try it out if you can. After years of surviving on 2 to 3 hours of sleep, I can now sleep longer and better than ever. I'm also becoming a better version of myself in the way I am towards people and in the way I would also like to give back to my community through these podcasts and for other services that I also have in mind, like volunteering, volunteer work, etc. So, here comes my number one tip for self care: sleep as much as you can. Doctors recommend 7 to 8 hours of sleep. On good days, it can be even longer. I know that this is almost impossible for some, but hear me out first. Give yourself that chance to give yourself something you deserve. I became sick because I overextended myself. That was my doing. No one ever forced me into it. And maybe some do this too. You just don't know it, or maybe are not aware of it. I know that other factors may come into play, like spending 3 hours of the shift gossiping about teammates or doing something else, or not allocating enough time on a certain activity. Keep in mind though that our work situations vary. So even for people working in the same office, factors vary. The point is, if you can avoid it, if you can manage your time so that by the time it's time to clock out, we should be done for the day. No overtime is needed. Am I telling you that your company can't request you to go on overtime? No, they can. However, I'm hoping that it'll be done only under special circumstances and not done every day. Not done every day that you're at work, that is, because I hear you, it's tiring. I've been there. It is tiring. It's bone tiring, soul tiring, that kind of tired. Time at home is another story altogether. So if you spend a lot of time at work, your time at home, time with your loved ones, time for chores, etc., are sacrificed as well. It's a domino effect. Other things take a back seat. So take that much needed rest. I know it's easier said than done, especially if you work in customer service, the healthcare industry, security, and some retail industries as well. I may have missed many more, but those are the ones that I can gather at the top of my head at the moment. But please know that it's not my intention to leave anyone out. There are things too that can help us gain more rest. So I'm going to share this with you. Here are the first few things to remember. To get better rest. First is set a time for sleep. If it's lights out by 10 p.m. or whatever time of the day you're supposed to be asleep, stick to it. Why? When you specify a time, you get to manage all other activities better. Believe me. Aim for 7 to 8 hours of undisturbed rest if it's possible. I always say this, it's always going to be if it's possible. That's the if. Because our situations vary. And I say this with all the love and prayers that I do wish this for all of you. Second, an hour before your bedtime, avoid scrolling through social media or whatever it is you're scrolling through. We spend almost the entire day in front of our PCs, then alternate it with our phones, our tablets. We spend most of our free time scrolling through the latest news, online shopping, talking about the latest trend, playing games, watching movies, and what have you. So it's dopamine here, dopamine there. But we've got to be disciplined enough to minimize excitement before we sleep. So do something that will help you calm down. I find that a good warm shower helps. If I had a bathtub, I would soak in warm bubbles for maybe half an hour. Listen to calming music if you want. Read as well. Or do something that just calms your mind. Or you can just sit in silence. Do nothing. Just relax. And I've made this a non-negotiable for me. So regardless of what day it is, whether it's my work day or it's my off, if I'm about to go to bed, I put my phone down for at least an hour before I do go to bed. I hope it may soon become yours. Okay? Third tip, when we wake up, avoid scrolling as well. For some, the first thing that they do is go on their phones as well. Imagine scrolling through news, messages, pics here, pics there, the latest news about this and that. And you don't really realize it, but instead of feeling relaxed after 8 hours of sleep, your mind starts to race. And that surge of excitement so early in the day lessens our energy. Our goal is to conserve as much of that energy, not just for work, but also for you to do the things that are important to you. So I hope that taking care of you is also important. You deserve it. Don't let your friends or family gaslight you into thinking you're selfish. You aren't. I always like to quote this famous proverb: you can't pour from an empty cup. In the same way that we can't give other people our time when we feel so drained and exhausted. So share this with someone that you believe it will help. Subscribe and follow too. Until next time, enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.